is not my first COP, this is actually my third. I am the standing rapporteur for the Parliament's position to COPs. So my first COP was actually 3 years ago in Glasgow, and last year in Sharm el-Sheikh. So I've been, I'm little by little, I'm understanding a bit more how this multilateral forum works and what are the dynamics. And I think it's been very interesting to see that if we compare to 10 or 15 years ago, there's a wide public support for the need to take action on climate policies, and I think the European Union, we have been quite successful in showing the possible instruments to deal with the decarbonization and mitigation of climate change, but also adaptation, because unfortunately there's so many communities in the world, regions in the world that are most affected by irreversible climate effects. And so we also have to put adaptation at the heart of the discussion. Unfortunately, we are living in a very polarized political context, and we have the left, or the extreme left, that thinks that the best way that we can deal with climate change is to just stop capitalism. And unfortunately, there's still some right-wing deniers of what is happening, because we need first and foremost to listen to science, and the scientific community is being very, very clear about what will happen in 70 years if we don't take action now. We are putting in question or at stake future generations. So what is being moderate? Well, we have to take action. We have to keep our businesses running. We have to involve all the sectors of our society in this transition. Obviously, transitions are always a little bit complicated. You know, the Industrial Revolution, for example, was quite harsh. And so we are in a similar situation. We have also other technological developments that can enable this climate transition, for example, artificial intelligence. So we need to put everything together. We need to put people in dialogue. In times of polarization, democracy is dialogue, and we need to talk to each other and to find solutions to make sure that people are prevented from these weather extreme events that risk lives, that risk businesses, that put in question sustainability and the future generations. So this is where I am. I am a moderate. I listen to the scientific community, and I do know that we need to take action as legislators to make sure that we can protect our communities and that we can deliver for future generations. In my parliamentary work, there's 1 week every 2 months that I am in the member state of election, which in my case it is Portugal. Portugal actually is one of the most affected countries according to the IPCC report on climate change. So this is quite worrying. We are experiencing severe droughts, periods of heavy floods, which is very difficult to deal with. So we need to take action, but Portugal alone or the European Union alone, we cannot deliver. We need the planet to be globally committed to this. How do I involve my constituents? I was telling you 1 week every 2 months I am I'm meeting my constituents, I'm meeting organizations, different organizations, stakeholders, the business community, academia, and I sit with them and I tell them, like, we are doing this in the European Parliament. How do you think it should make sense to shape the legislation? One concrete example. I am now leading the discussions on a certification framework on carbon removals, and I was listening to. I had different meetings, listening to the different levels of governance in our society, but also to the business community, to learn how we can fine-tune the legislation to, meet not only the targets but also enabling the market to function. And also for COP, the Parliament's position, I wanted to hear what people considered as priority, and so I was in close contact with them, and I use my social media and the face-to-face meetings to learn from them, to listen from them. To be a woman in politics, I'm not going to be shy to tell you, it is difficult. It is unfortunately still a man's world, but we see that the diversity brings more solutions to the table. And even on climate, for example, we have now to consider women in all climate policies because they are more vulnerable, but also children. And so it has been a little bit complicated at times, especially local politics, if I may say. But the truth is that I have been treated as an equal among my colleagues in the European Parliament, and I feel very comfortable in leading certain files or leading committees. I am the coordinator for the Committee on Taxation, and so I think this shows that there is space for the affirmation of women, but there's also the recognition that women are valuable with their work and among their colleagues. The dynamics have been sometimes the US and China and sidelining the European Union, but then there's also the intermediation of the European Union with these two sides of the globe. I would expect more leadership from the US, indeed. I do know that things work differently in both sides of the Atlantic, but I think we need a strong democracy and a strong voice in the world to also be an enabler of these climate transition. I think things changed, particularly in the last 3 years, but it is not sufficient. And whatever comes next in the American elections, I do hope that there is this sense of duty and responsibility to not neglect the climate and the environment, because in the end of the day we are talking about resources, we are talking about assets. If we don't have resources, we don't have assets. So we need to make it sustainable for our businesses, for our markets to function, for our households to have access to food, to water. So this cannot be neglected because it is fashion to be polarized in a way and say that climate change is something that does not exist. I mean, listen to the scientific community, listen to the scientific community during COVID times. And so we have to be a little bit more sensitive to that. And so I really do hope that the US remains as a strong partner. The transatlantic relationship is very important. We are very close historically, and I do want that this remains as such, because there's a lot to learn from both sides, and our American fellows are crucial to achieve the climate neutrality and to make sure that our planet does not burn for the future generations. So it is sometimes a polarizing topic, but there has to be some political commitment to it.